Hey, folks, John Kennedy and Michael Scott here. So we are coming to you today after, I'm just going to actually read the headline, Michael, and then let you talk a little bit about it. But it's on the heels of a lot of, we did a video series last month about a recession and defining what that is. And we're going to kind of touch on that today too. But the article that I'm reading today, of course, GDP numbers came out this morning. So we're recording this just a few hours after that. GDP fell in the second quarter, the second straight decline. And then the thing that really catches me is it says, and a strong recession signal. So it's not defining that we're in a recession, at least in this article, but yet others would say that we are. So, Michael, let's talk a little bit about this because we know academically, we've talked about academically what a recession is. I'll let you share that. And just what are your thoughts on the GDP numbers that just came out and where we are?
Yeah. So, John, it's kind of an interesting situation, right? Because we've talked for the past couple months about academically defining what a recession is. And just to reiterate that, generally speaking, it is 2 quarters of back to back negative GDP growth.
Yep.
And today, we just got that second number that came out negative 0.9%. So we had negative one between negative one and two in the first quarter, negative 0.9 second quarter. So for all intents and purposes, you look at academics, technicals, you should declare this a recession. But the White House has come out and said that we're not in a recession. The Fed came out and said they don't think we're in a recession. And a lot of people are like, we can't be. And there's actually a group called the NBER, the National Bureaucrats of Economic Research,
Mm-hmm.
National Bureau of Economic Research. And they're the ones that officially come out and they tell us when a recession occurs and when the expansion begins again or the recession's over. The
Mm-hmm.
only problem with that is they do that about a year after it ends and about a year after, or it starts and it ends, which is, kind of like wearing a raincoat inside the house. It's like that doesn't really do us a whole lot of good at this moment.
Right.
Um, so in a lot of ways, we're just kind of arguing technicalities at the moment and semantics back and forth.
Okay. Okay. That's
Um,
that's helpful though. I think a lot of people are this has been coming up a lot in meetings. People are confused on like, okay, academically we understand what it means. We're hearing that maybe we are or are not in one. So, and I think there are some underlying reasons why. And you know what? I've heard you say this, and we've talked about this in meetings as recent as yesterday. Kind of calling it like the potential for a quote unquote shallow recession, which of course they're not all created equal, which is a lot of what we've been talking with folks about is like what we think of when we hear that word. We think of what happened in 2008, which was just on the scale of epic proportions. They don't all have to be that way. And so I've heard you use the term, and we've used this in meetings, shallow recession. Maybe talk about why that is, some other underlying factors that are maybe good despite having two consecutive quarters of negative GDP.
yeah, so let's start with like the number one reason why economists, the Fed, the White House, different people argue that we don't have a recession today. And that is centered around employment. So we have today about 3.5 to 3.6% unemployment rate in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, when you have a recession, your unemployment rate goes up. So if we think back to the COVID recession, unemployment rate skyrocketed to over 10%. The global financial crisis, unemployment skyrocketed as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you think back to the early 2000s, in that recession, we had unemployment go up as well. Um, and what we're seeing today is there are still about 2 jobs for every unemployed person in the country. Now, there may be reasons why those jobs aren't being filled. It might be geography, it might be skills based, but there is still widespread demand for workers, and we're still seeing worker shortages. So, a lot of economists are saying, we can't have a recession without the unemployment market or the labor market falling apart. And we haven't seen that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we think, and the shallow recession comment kind of pairs very nicely to this soft landing discussion that the Fed's trying to put out there. And
Mm-hmm.
really, what that means is that when we came into the year and still where we are today, consumers have never been in a better shape. So let's think about the past several years. whether it's stimulus checks, whether it's wage increases, whether it's the stock market run for the past 10 years. Low interest rates have allowed people to refinance their debts. Consumer leverage is very low, and consumers have a lot of liquidity. And we see this in how they're spending. So, yes, we're seeing spending in certain areas slow down, but there's a lot of consumer spending going on in services. We're buying hotels, we're buying airline tickets, concert venues, things like that. Consumers are still spending money at a quick pace. So we have a very healthy consumer. And then we look at business balance sheets. Businesses have been able to refinance their debt for a long period of time at low interest rates. They've had great years of profits in a row. They are very liquid as well. And
Mhm.
though we're seeing some hiring slow in certain industries, like tech industry specifically, we're not seeing massive widespread layoffs yet, which is also a hallmark of a recession. So
Yeah.
businesses are in a very good position. And then, one of the lessons we learned in the GFC, the global financial crisis, is that banks are systemically important and we have to make sure they are well capitalized. And today, our banks are well capitalized and more well run than they've ever been. So, if we are in a recession that started January 1, or let's say it starts today, or let's say officially it starts in September or October, we are in a better shape as a country to deal with a recession than we may have ever been before, which
Great.
could make this a very shallow and short recession and almost like a speed bump when you're driving down the road. Once you pass that speed bump or that stop sign, you reaccelerate. Now, the one caveat here, as we all know, there's inflation, there's high energy prices. They could persist and make things a little bumpy in the interim,
Mhm.
but overall, whether it's consumers, whether it's businesses, banks, everyone seems pretty healthy. It's just
Mhm.
a slower growing period.
Hmm. Yeah. Well said. Well said. I love it. I think it just gives great perspective for folks who maybe see this conflicting information or, I feel like we started talking about it several months ago and defining a recession. And now it's every headline I read in any,
Mhm.
economic or finance news report. Folks, we felt like it was really important to come on here today, as we're, receiving the information and digesting it and have Michael talk about it. If you notice, the background for Michael is different. He's actually on vacation right now, and that's how important we felt it was to get this information out. So I'm picking up my kids, Ellen Hudson, from camp pretty much after we record this. Michael's on vacation, but we wanted to get our thoughts on the matter. So, Michael, thank you, man. Appreciate you doing this with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing it with me, John. I saw the headline this morning and thought, yeah, this is a good thing we need to talk about and get in front of. So appreciate you taking the time to set this up as well.
Absolutely. All right, stay tuned for the next one. We're gonna have to name this something like Market Minute or something. We'll come up with something good, right? We'll come up with something
We'll figure it
catchy.
out. We'll figure it out. We'll have
Yeah,
the marketing people on this one.
I like it. All right, see you, everybody. Bye.
See ya.